Hey guys, welcome to BricksDaily Live. Another episode this week. Looking pretty excited for today. See if we can get this to work out the way I'm hoping. So this week we're actually going to be using this guy here. Make sure you guys can see him. This is Yondu from Lego set. Let me see what this was. It's set 76080, and this is a pretty great little figure. It has, his trademark mohawk kind of thing. It's kind of a translucent color, and an arrow for him. The arrow's a little bit larger than what I would like. I wish it was somehow a little bit smaller, but I know Lego likes to use the same pieces in each one of their sets rather than recreating it. And also that's just because of the sheer cost of creating new molds and everything like that for each new piece. It just seems a little bit bulky for his hands. I mean, this, the arrow itself is as tall as his torso to his head, so that's quite a bit bigger than what the character was using in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie and everything. So, so what I want to do is kind of create something that looks in line with some of the visuals that they had from the movie. A lot of purples and stuff like that. And so what I actually did was go through and created a background already. And I'll show you that background here. And what happens is and going with it's going to allow us to have some color and everything like that, and I want to go in more of a vertical orientation or layout as opposed to a landscape like we've done previously. And then I have some text overlays that I want to go with to add in there and stuff like that. Not really creating a movie poster, but just adding in some stuff that I think will add a little bit to the shot and everything. So why don't we go ahead and switch over and get started with taking some photos. Okay, so I have a small little stand that I use. I think I've talked about it before. And all this stand is turn on some light here. Just a small base that I use various Lego pieces for. And with everything I have, I can actually set some angles and everything. What I like about this is how it comes up and out with a 90. We can take a minifigure and attach it to the slot in the back here, and it gives kind of a stationary thing. So if we wanted to have some kind of flying or jumping scene, it's held in place, so that way we can get kind of the shot that we want. And with this, what I was kind of thinking of is the scene in Guardians of the Galaxy where Yondu is coming down and talking with Star-Lord right after a battle. Hopefully I'm not spoiling anything for anybody. And there's a line that is pretty popular. It's where Star-Lord compares Yondu to Mary Poppins and everything. So I've been watching that scene a lot, and he has a very rigid look when he's coming down. It depends on which take in the video. Either his legs are together or they're slightly out. For this, what I'm thinking is I'm going to just pose his leg just a little bit back. Let's see if I can add in a little bit more light for you guys here. So just kind of pose one leg back just a little bit. Oh, no, let's... Actually, we're going to do slightly different. We're going to just do Yondu. Sorry, just thought about this. So I'll get him situated. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so if he's coming down like this, I think it's going to look better with the back leg moved back just a little bit. Or I think it will look odd if he has one leg forward, like so. So I think having one leg back, but we're gonna switch this up and have it attached to the back leg instead. Now for this, I really want to get some nice coverage with lighting, so I'm gonna possibly use all three of my primary lights that I use. So we're gonna bring that down. Okay. Just really get the lighting set up the way I want. I want what I'm looking for right now with this. I think with the background that I've created, I want to have him lit up as much as possible all the way around and stuff. So let's see with that there. Try moving this in just a little bit so you guys can see a little bit more of the figure. Okay. And we'll get the camera into position. And right now I am using my 85mm lens. I have that set up with the camera and everything. And again, I know I talk about this all the time. I tend to use a prime lens. So when I want to get more of him in frame, I either need to physically move him or move the camera position manually. I can't zoom in with the lens and stuff since it's a prime lens. Okay, so I'll say I had to step away there for a moment. Wanted to grab a can of compressed air here. I'm going to try and get as much of the dust off as possible so we don't have to spend a lot of time cleaning up dust and everything afterwards. Okay, so I think right now the positioning is good. So right now I'm just going to take a test shot for composition. Let's see. So one of the things I want to watch for is I want to watch for any kind of, because of the 3 lights that I'm using and the Legos being the plastic material that they are, since I have a light here, I have to watch for how much reflection I have, or reflection of the light on this side of the face, since I have another light on this side here. And then since the light's coming down from the top, I also have to watch what's going on up here on the top ridge, and also on the shoulders and this back arm back here. And if I'm not careful, they can get blown out really, really easily. So I just kind of want to watch and make sure that I'm happy with the highlights and everything that are going on. I'm actually going to try turning the top down just a little bit. The other thing is I'm shooting with more open aperture right now, just because I want to get all of him in focus. I don't want too much of the back arm or anything being out of, or slightly out of focus or anything. And as a result, I'm also adjusting my shutter speed and everything so that it stays open. Because I have the aperture open more, I need to compensate with the shutter speed so that way it doesn't wash out or blow out the image and everything. Okay, I think that'll work with what we got. It's gonna be pretty simple and everything. I do want to show you real quick, like I was mentioning, this stand here. So the way I have it worked out is it's just attached to a Lego base plate and with a crossbar, and I just am able to add to it the way I want. So I can take out this longer piece here, and I just readily keep all these different pieces available. And so what I can do is if I take this, I can actually put that on, and it will give me slightly different. If I can take this part off, extend that out, and all of a sudden I have more of a angle. Or I can just add on more, and I can get more into position of where I want. I can even take this and rotate it to where if I wanted him maybe upside down over something, I could easily do that. So, but what I want to do right now is I'm going to swap these out. While this is mostly a image for Yondu, I do want to add in possibly Groot. It's really tiny there. It's a pretty cool little piece. And again, it's from the same set. So I'm going to clear everything out here. And I'm just going to blow and I want to keep the same tripod position and everything like that. So all I'm doing right now is just changing the length or the height on this. And I actually want him at an angle like this because of how I'm envisioning putting him into the picture. So I want to make sure I have the lighting look the same as what it would be in relation to with Yondu. So that way what's happening is, I know this is really hard to see because of how small he is, because of the curves and everything on the piece, there's going to be a highlight right here and right up on the top of his head here. So okay, I think, yeah, I think those will work. It's a pretty simple setup today. I know last week we did very little editing. This week, I do know that we're gonna have slightly more editing and everything like that we're gonna do. So let me turn those off there. And we'll switch back over to the computer. Okay, so like I mentioned, I already have a background set up, and the background I just went through and created a background, and then this foreground, and I'm actually going to be placing Yondu between these two layers or groups here. So let's go ahead and open up our image. Sorry, let's see. So here's one of our first ones that we took. There's Groot. And I think right there is a Yondu that'll work best. So we're gonna open up both of these here. Okay. So we're back in Camera Raw, and we're gonna go in and just start playing with our settings here just a little bit. I'm not looking for any specific settings right now. I'm wanting to adjust it for what I feel looks good and everything. I think one of the big problems that people have a lot of times when they go through and do Photoshop stuff is they look for the exact same settings that somebody else uses. And what they fail to realize, or a lot of times the people that are giving the tutorial or the example, what they fail to mention is they're just picking that number arbitrarily. There's no difference between a 6 and a 7. I mean, if you look at it and you're like, oh, I like the contrast being at plus 19. That doesn't mean every single time you do it, you need to go with a plus 19. The next time it might be like, oh, on this one I prefer it being a negative 19. It's just whatever looks good for you. Use the settings that you like for that image. But then you can apply those same settings to other shots in the same photo series because they tend to already have the same lighting and everything like that. So we're just going to go in and adjust this and get just the right setting that we want. One thing I'm watching out for is stuff like on the shoulder. And as you can see, even with us blowing stuff off, there's still some dust that we're going to have to get off and everything, which is fine, but I just wanted to try and minimize how much dust we'd have to get off and everything. So as we get this, and with the camera settings that I used and everything, you can see them up in the top up here. You know, I was actually shooting with an f/29 with an ISO of 400 with an 85mm and 1/10 of a shutter speed. What wound up happening is, if you noticed, the background is white, but it actually created it black, or it started darkening it and everything. So it's just one of the things to notice and stuff like that as you're taking photos and everything. Sometimes you can darken out the background or anything like that just with in-camera settings. It just depends on what you're trying to shoot and how you have your lights set up. So let's go in and make sure we have this exactly the way we want it. And for me, I tend to usually always bring up the clarity. It just helps create more of a sharper image. And I also like to bring up the vibrancy. I like more vibrant colors when I'm doing toy photography. I don't necessarily do that when I'm shooting people or other items. It's just for toy photography or for toys, you expect it to have a kind of vibrant, toyful look. And so if you go too dull, it doesn't look right and everything. So I just try to bring up that vibrancy a little bit. And I'm going to go in and sharpen. And also bring up noise reduction. And that's also going to help a little bit with the dust and everything that was still shot. So it's a little bit less work that we have to do still. So bring that all up. And again, all I'm doing is looking for the settings that it looks good for me. Okay. Now if I want, I could actually come in using in-camera raw and do some of the dust removal. So I could just start correcting some of those areas. And I'm doing it fairly quickly, but these are just very small blemishes and stuff like that, so it's not requiring a huge amount of detail to go in and try and find the perfect match area. So we just go in. And some of these I will want to do once I get into Photoshop itself. I'm just doing some of the quick cleanup here. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do now is select that we have all those, and you can see all these points that I went in and I corrected very quickly, so some dust and everything off of the figure. And we're going to come over real quick, select group photo as well, and we're going to just do sync settings. We're going to say okay. The one thing, since we did the spot removal in Camera Raw, you definitely want to make sure you don't have spot removal checked, or else it's going to apply all those little dot corrections to Groot as well, but we don't need them for that shot. So we'll just click OK. If we come into Groot, you can see it's a very tiny figure, and if we come in here, we can correct some of the dust. Everything going on with Groot. Okay. Go back over and look back at Yondu real quick. And because I'm already going to crop him out and take him from this shot over to the other, a lot of times what I'll do is just do an extra crop, just so I don't have to look at that extra information or anything like that. So I just crop it down to the bare minimum here, just to focus on the parts that I'm going to use. And we're going to do the same thing with Groot here. have Groot, Yondu, and if we select both of them over in the left, now if I can click open objects and both of them will open. If I only have one selected, it's only going to open up that one image. So I want to have both. So we're going to go ahead and open objects. And right now, because of the settings I have, it's going to make both of them quite large and everything. So when I bring them over into the other shot, I'm actually going to have to size them down a little bit, but we'll deal with that here in just a moment. So we're going to start off with Yondu. Now there's a bunch of different ways you can make selections in Photoshop and everything. If you want it to be more precise, I'll show you what you do here. And it's a lot easier with a figure like this just because there's not a huge amount of hair and stuff like that that you have to go around and everything. So we're just gonna zoom in here and we're gonna pick a starting point, and I'm gonna just start right down here on his lower foot, and I'm actually going to go in with the pen tool, and with the pen tool selected, I'm going to just start with a point. And some people are intimidated by the pen tool. The more you use it, the more you'll get used to it. And what you're going to do is you're just going to click and go around and set points. And to get a curve, you just click and drag out just a little bit. And because the Legos are, for the most part, when they photograph, except for a slight lens distortion, they're pretty straight and everything. So, and I could go back over into Camera Raw and turn on like lens distortion and everything like that, but it's still going to come across, no matter what, you're not going to get it perfectly straight. So this will help get pretty close. So a lot of times I'll do 2 points, and then using the handle I'll come in and I'll just snug it up against the side there. And usually what I'll do is, as I'm creating these paths for selections, what I do is I'll tend to look at the two contrasting lines, and I'll come in just a bit to the part I actually want to keep and everything. If I go the opposite way, I'll wind up with the dark line and everything like that. So I don't want that. So I just come in. Okay. And as we do this, we're just going to continually go around the figure. Now here I'm not going to do a precise around there. I kind of want it to just have a nice even bottom. So just going to adjust all those. If you haven't ever used the pen tool in Photoshop, Illustrator, or anything like that, I really recommend that you practice with it and stuff. You can do a lot more items, and selections can be a lot better. The magic wand and all those kind of things, they're nice, but you're allowing the computer to take control of what you want selected. So just, choose which one you want to do. You could also go in and do like a quick mask and paint in the area you want selected, which can work, but sometimes it still doesn't give the completely desired effect. So for this, I know I just want to go in and select this with more definition and everything. With Groot, I'll show using the quick mask method. So just keep coming around and making a selection. Now by default, what happens with Photoshop is anytime you click on the pen tool and up in the top you have it set for path, because you have shape, path, or pixel. If you have it set for path, it'll actually create these paths in the paths palette. And by default, it'll just create the first one called work path. Now if I click off and use some other tool and then all of a sudden decide that I'm going to start up the path again, you have to be careful with it because you can actually delete the path on accident that you just started, and then you have to start all over again. And what I mean is if I click off of here and the path's no longer selected, and then I select another tool and everything and I start working, the path isn't visible. It's still in the paths palette, but if I click on the pen tool and or this in the path comes unselected and I click again, the path I just had is gone, and I would have to go back in and start all over unless I undo, and then I can start back up where I left off. It just brings that path back. Okay. So we're just pulling this in. And this part should start going a little bit faster here just because we're getting into some pretty well-defined edges and everything like that. So lots of straights and simple curves. So like here we can just curve and go more of the distance. Let me see if I can zoom in here so you guys can see this. Now here you'll see there's the blue of the Lego piece and then the gray, and then you get a line right down there. So what I'll tend to do is I'll go just, in this case, just to the right of that darker line. And the reason I do that is if I go to the left, it's going to have a hard dark line going through the shot, and it's easier for it to be noticeable that it was cut out and everything like that. So I'm just going to go in, and right now because I know I'm going to go from this curve to a straight line, if I hold down the Alt or the Option key, what happens is it turns off the handle, the curve handle and everything. So that's gone. So now when I click, it's going to just automatically be a straight line. Let's see what's going on here. There we go. So while we're doing this, if just want to remind you guys, if you like these videos and stuff like that, please click on subscribe and everything, so that way you can be notified when new videos come out. Make sure you click on the bell icon and stuff, so it'll help you get notified better from YouTube. Also, if you go over to BricksDaily on Facebook, so facebook.com/BricksDaily, You can follow us there and also get notified when we go live. Anytime we go live, we also post over there just to let people know. So if you're on there on Facebook a little bit more, you can also get notified over there when new videos or when we go live and everything. And also make sure you go to BricksDaily.com and check us out over there. We do have a great series that we've been working on called Under the Macro, where we feature toy photographers from all around the world. And if you want to be featured, just let us know. Reach out to us on Facebook. It's the best way. And we would love to feature anybody's work that wants to be to share it with people all around the world and everything. So to see the series, just go to BricksDaily.com/under the macro, or you can click from the home page and see some of the videos or interviews that we've done with people from everywhere from Singapore to France to the US and everything. So just head over there. And also everybody that we feature on Under the Macro, we try to share where you can view their stuff online. Go out and follow these guys that we feature. They're really great. They have amazingly good photos that they take and everything, and it'll just help with inspiration and help you get an understanding of what you might be able to do with some of your photos that you take. And also, just one thing I wanted to bring up is last week I had mentioned possibly doing like a giveaway kind of thing. Just found out we can't do that right now. There's huge legality issues and stuff like that we have to go through and stuff of what's considered a giveaway versus a sweepstake versus all sorts of stuff, and versus international laws and stuff like that. You know, what's considered a giveaway in the US might be considered a lottery in another country, and there's just a bunch of legal loopholes and stuff like that we have to meet. And I just want to make sure that we do everything correctly here and stuff. So I do apologize for that. I am looking for ways to just give you guys stuff. Not looking for you guys to do anything. Just trying to find the easiest way to just say, hey, if you want this, let me know and I'll send it to you. That's all I want to do. I mean, it's just YouTube has all sorts of policies in place. Facebook has their own policies in place. The big one is with YouTube. If you go against what YouTube says, you can get what's known as a strike. And if you get 3 strikes within so many months, you can you lose your channel and all the videos that you've done. So, you know, we're trying to build this, and I just want to make sure we're doing it the right way and everything like that. So if anybody was looking forward to that, I really apologize. I hope you guys can understand the situation that causes and stuff like that. But I promise, trying to get it figured out and everything like that. So I hope to be able to offer stuff like that soon and everything. So also got to look at like age restrictions and stuff like that. Okay, so we're coming around here and we are finishing up. Okay, so with that, we have a selection all the way around. Now in the paths palette with the work path, I'm going to just double click on that and we're just going to call it outline. And now that path won't get deleted or anything like that. So if I hold down the command key and I click on the path, it's going to create a selection around the figure. And what I'm going to actually do is I'll just mask that, and there we go. It's a pretty clean, very precise adjustment and everything. or masking. So the other thing that we'll do real quick is come back in over on Groot. And I told you I would use a quick mask method for Groot. And the way you do that is you first off, you start by pushing the Q key, or you can click on just below the swatches, you can click on the icon and go into the what's Photoshop refers to as edit in quick mask mode. So if I just hit Q, pull up a paintbrush, let's get a larger brush size, and you just start painting. It's going to paint everything red, and this is just with the settings I have selected right now. You can go in, you can change what color it's used. You can choose green, you can choose black, you can choose white, you can choose none. It's just what you're comfortable with. I like using the red. It's just kind of a nice contrasting color. You can also change how opaque it is and stuff, so you can make it so more of the image shows through the red. I'm good with it at this level. It's going to look a little bit more solid of red to you guys, just because of video capture and everything like that, but it's actually pretty solid. It's not quite as solid of red on my side and everything, so I can still see through there if I need to. Okay, so we just kind of come up, and a lot of times when I'm doing this, what I do is I just paint around the outside a lot. Borrow this trick a little bit just from painting like in rooms and stuff like that, just doing a lead-in edge. And then what I'll do is I'll come back with a thicker or bigger brush and fill in the areas a little bit faster. If I hold down the shift key between each point, it will autofill with like a straight line between those 2 points. So if I do it small enough, I can get around a curve pretty easily. Okay, so we're almost done. So now I'm just going to make a slightly bigger brush. I can fill everything in just a little bit faster. And I'm going to adjust the spacing. If you notice, as I paint, it kind of has a bumpy texture. I bring down my spacing in my brush palette, it removes that, so it's a nice smooth painting or brushing. So just coming in. Making sure we have it all filled in. And I still like to use the brush tool when I'm using the quick mask mode. I don't want to, you know, come up and do it any other way. It's just so that way if I go through and I find an area kind of like here, I can still quickly fix the selection. Now once I have all the parts painted that I want, what I simply have to do is just hit Q and it makes a selection. And so we'll go in and mask him out, and there's Groot. Now one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and convert this into a smart object. and it's going to automatically apply that layer mask to the layer, and do the same thing over here with Yondu for to smart object. This way, when I bring it over, I already know I'm going to have to shrink this down for both Yondu and for Groot. But this way, if I go down too far with the scaling, I can easily bring it back up without losing any of the information and stuff. So we're just going to move him over in here, and you'll see he's quite large. And we're going to do the same thing with Groot. Bring him over. And Groot, we're going to go ahead and shrink him down right now. Just hitting Command T, and then I hit Command 0 to make it so I could see all of them. And we're just going to bring him down just to right there for right now. And we're going to hide him. Let's name this Groot. And Yondu. Okay, now I'm going to move Yondu down between the two group sets. And we're going to adjust his size. And right now what I'm doing is I'm just bringing the center point of the image right in, or of the layer, into the center of the image. And if I come up to the corner and I hold down Option and Shift, it's going to conform that so it doesn't scale just the width or the height by itself. It's going to keep those in proportion to each other. And then by holding down the Alt or Option key, as I do it, it's going to go towards the center, or wherever the center mark is located, because you can move that around if you want to. So I'm just going to bring him down. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. See if I get the sizing the way I want. Okay. Now with that, I'm going to mask a little bit of him out, just to get a little bit of a fade. Okay, so if you guys have seen Guardians of the Galaxy, his arrow has a red light up feature, and also the scene that we've talked about, he's coming down using the, holding on to the arrow as a method for him to be able to kind of fly, for lack of a better term. And what we're going to do is we're going to make it look like this was going all over the place. And the way I'm going to do this is I've selected the path tool, and I'm going to just start clicking. Now I'm going to actually start just off the canvas area, and you'll see why here in a moment. I'm going to just have it going all over the place here. And off to this side, I'm going to just click a whole bunch. And I'll show you why here in a moment. Now, in the Paths tool, we're going to double click to just say arrow path. And that way that path doesn't accidentally get deleted or anything like that. Now, we're going to select a new layer and select the brush tool. And I'm going to go ahead and go with white for that. And I'm going to bring the brush size down just a little bit. I'm going to paint just to see what the thickness or how it looks. Okay, so that should work. Now with the path still selected, in the top right of the path palette, I'm going to click, and I'm going to click on stroke path. Now when this comes up, it's going to ask, okay, what do you want to stroke the path with? What tool? You have all sorts of choices. I want to use the brush tool. And by selecting that, it's going to use whatever the brush is currently set at. So that's why I was looking for the right size that I wanted. And also I'm going to simulate pressure. And what that means is where the path starts is going to be thinner. And where it ends, it's going to be thinner. And then all the points in between will just be a little bit thicker. And so that's why I added a whole bunch of paths off to the sides. I want that thickness to continue off of the page, off of the image. So if I click OK, what you can see is the path here up at the top is slightly different, or has a different thickness than the path here. Okay, so what we're going to do is create a layer style by double clicking, and what we're going to do is create an outer glow similar to what we've done with lightsabers and stuff like that. So usually when I'm doing outer glow, it's already set for hard light blend mode. And what I want to do is I just want to get what looks right for this image. Can add in a little bit of noise or jitter if we want. You can see what happens there. I'm not going to put too much in. We can always come up and add in some noise itself. Don't need to worry about that too much. Okay, and with that, I'll click OK. And I'm going to come up and do a Gaussian blur. And so blur Gaussian is too much. I don't know what I was doing before that required that much of a blur. We're just going to blur it so it's not so hard of a line and everything. So click OK. Okay, and from there, what we'll do is I'm going to double click and pull up the layer style again, and on blend options I'm going to turn on layer mask hides effects and close that back out. Now, so what I want to do is I want to hide some of this from where it might be in the image. And what I'm going to do right now is command click on Yondu, and it makes a selection out of him. Now, hold on, undo that real quick. Layer mask. Now make a selection of Yondu, and we're going to come in, we're going to paint out the areas and just mask them out. So that way it looks like it's going behind him here. Also behind his hand and behind the arrow. So I mean, if we wanted, we could also have it just going completely behind him, but at that point we should have just put the layer behind him to begin with. But I still want that to come out in front of him. Now I could also just make a whole new line if I wanted, but there's a reason why I did it this way, and I'll show you why here. Now I'm going to select the layer again, and with the arrow path selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and just slightly move the path in some locations, not too much. And what we're going to do is here, actually going to adjust these. Okay, so now we have this be the way we want it. So double check my brush size. I'm going to go with a much smaller size. And by smaller, I mean much more so than what we started off with. Yeah, so I think a 2 will work. And what I'm going to do is actually click on the top right box again and click on stroke path. Again with the brush and simulate the pressure. And if you notice, if you come in, what it's done is it's added in a much fainter line. So we're just going to do that just a couple of times. Come back in. We're just going to readjust those paths to make. We don't want every single time we do it to be in the same position. And this is why we painted it the way we wanted, is now anything we add to that layer is going to automatically be hidden behind the hand and stuff like that. So that way we don't have to go in every single time and remask and stuff. So I think I'm going to just wind up doing this, just this one more time. And we're going to use the same brush settings that we just did. Stroke path again. Click OK. And now when it's zoomed in, you can see that it has double lines, altogether 3 coming through. And it just creates a slightly chaotic look. And we're going to blur this just a little bit. So I'm going to go filter. I'm going to hold down the option key and click on Gaussian blur. And it's just to soften it up a little bit, so we don't need to go too much. So we don't want to lose everything that we just did. So you can still see it's in there. Now, in the trailer, or in the scene in the movie, I'm sorry, what winds up happening is as he's coming down, since he's coming down, the light comes out of the arrow and goes up. So we're going to create that now. Whole new path and a new layer. So with this, we're going to come here. We're going to kind of do like what we did before. I'm going to go in and just create a bunch of points, because when it comes off of the arrow, I want it to be thick, but when it goes up, I want it to trail off. So here, okay. Now I'm going to go in with a brush, because we're going to go in and stroke the path just like we did previously. Actually, I'm going to go in and move the arrows or the path points just a little bit. Because since I'm going to be using a thicker brush, I don't want it too close to any other line and everything. So what's going to wind up happening is, with this path selected, if it's too close, it's going to just be one solid thing. It'll be hard to mask some of it out. So what we want to do is get a slightly bigger brush, about like that. And with the new layer, we're going to stroke the path. And simulate pressure again. Click OK. If you notice, it comes off a little bit thicker, and then it trails off just a little bit. And we can go ahead and copy the layer style that we did previously, paste it, now with this we do need to go in and blur, and I'm going to go in and move the paths just a little bit so we can do that same stroke effect. I'm going to come back in with a much smaller stroke or brush size, so that way when it does the stroke it's not super thick. But we're going to be a little bit thicker than what we did for the background arrow lines. So before we had a 2, and right now we're going to go with about a 4 pixel. Again, whatever dimension or sizes looks good to you. And we're going to stroke the path again. Click OK. And move this around again. I'm just moving it around. There's no wrong way to do this. And with that, we're going to stroke the path again. Okay. Now, since this is a little bit thicker, I'm going to go in and add in one more line. This one, I am going to make it a thinner stroke. Okay. And brush size, we're going to bring this from 4, just for mine, down to 2. Stroke the path. That way it just kind of gets this extra faint line right next to it. We're going to come up to filter, hold down Option key, Gaussian blur again, and we don't want to go that hard. So that's without. We just want to bring it up just a little bit to soften those lines. Hit OK. And now I'm going to mask out some of the path stroke that we don't need. So I just create a layer mask, and just come in and paint this. So I'm just going to do that. Add in one more layer. Okay. Oops. Now with that done, what I'm going to do is come over to Illustrator, and here I have the Yondu's name that I created and the line that we're going to put in. So let's go ahead and select the line first. So I'm just copying it, bringing it over to Photoshop. I'm going to paste it as a smart object. And we're going to go in, let's see, let's shrink it down just a little bit. And with this, I'm going to apply a layer mask to that. Make a selection of Yondu again. And now I'm going to actually make some of the letters go behind his headpiece. Let's have y'all be in front. Okay. Shrink this up just a little bit more. And the phrase is well known enough that you don't have to have it totally visible just because people will know what it's saying, even if they can't see fully all of the letters. So we're just going to apply an effect. Let's see if we do that. Just add in a drop shadow just so it's a little bit more visible. And we're going to click OK. Now go back over and we're going to grab his name and paste this in. I'm going to put this down here towards the bottom. Get that size just the way we want it. And let's see. I think for this we can come in here, do a gradient, color dodge should work. change this to, let's see. Add a stroke here. Add another stroke. This one, put on the inside. Or center it. Okay. And drop shadow. So right now I'm just looking to see which one has the effect that I want the most. So it's just a matter right now of trial and error. Which I think I like that. Oh, let's see. Okay. Just double checking to make sure it's actually how I want it to look. And part of it's just not standing out to me the way I want. Okay. Let's go ahead and go with that. Now if you remember, we have grouped, and then all I want is for him to be down in this corner. Or we could, let's see. Yeah, actually, let's put him behind Yondu. Shrink him down just a little bit more. With him being behind, we're going to add in just a drop or a shadow coming off of him, off of Yondu. So I'm just selecting Yondu, making him a selection, and want a gray, not too dark of a gray. Don't want it to be black. Now on this layer that I just created above Groot, I'm going to hold down Option Delete with the selection in place. Now undo, and you'll notice that I now have a gray layer in the shape of Yondu. And by holding down the Option key and clicking between layer 4 and Groot, it's going to apply that just to Groot. And I'm going to go up and change that to multiply. We're going to create a blur on it. Click OK. Let's see. His name's still not quite looking the way I wanted it to. Okay, see if that works a little bit. So all I did was I copied the star field from the bottom over the top and masked it out over the top of the text and dropped the fill down to about 60 and set the blend mode to hard light. And now I just, let's see, create one more thing here. Oops. Just want to create a black box, and we're going to come to Filter, Render, and Lens Flare. Click OK. And we're going to adjust the levels of this just a bit. Okay, and now set this to screen. I'm going to move this down and duplicate it, and we're going to have light coming off of the text just a little bit. Okay. Okay, so that's what we're gonna wind up with Yondu looking like right now and everything. So hopefully you guys found this a little bit informative and stuff like that. I know there was a lot of stuff that we went through and everything to get this effect, and hopefully you found it helpful and everything, and that it's something that you can apply in some of the images that you work on and everything like that. If you found anything helpful in this video or tutorial, it would be great if you could share it with us and let us know what you were able to do with it. Share it on Instagram, share it on Facebook, anywhere you want with the hashtag BricksDaily Challenge, and we'll see what you guys come up with. And next week we'll see about sharing some of those photos if you want, or just send it to us and we'll try and share it with everybody. I'll let you look at this again here, and hopefully, like I said, you just found some of it helpful and that you can apply some of those settings and stuff in your images. And share them with us. Let us know. Also, like this video, share it. If you're on Facebook, share this with everybody so that they can see what we're working on here. And also subscribe to us and hit that bell icon if you can. And we'll see you next week. And let us know if there's stuff that you guys want to see, and we'll get it worked into some of our videos. Thanks.